I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero to the end of the night. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. The podcast, featuring Tim, Liam, and Marie. Did I capture everyone?
Yes.
All right. This is the podcast where all five of us went and saw a movie tonight at our local Regal Cinema Theater, and now we're going to talk about it. In the shady corner of United Artists, next to, for some reason, a car that's always here. We're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you just wait till streaming? Do you need to come right away this weekend? Should you get snacks? Should you pass on snacks? Should you take a bathroom break? And so on, as you're used to from listening to this podcast. Or, if you're a new listener, welcome. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, welcome everyone. Welcome to our guest podcasters. Tonight we saw a movie called Renfield. Renfield. That's what it's called. There's various people in this movie. The people that I recognized are called Nicolas Cage, Awkwafina, and there's probably other people who are famous.
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult, is he the main?
He's the Renfield.
The Renfield.
He was an X-Men.
He was an X-Men. He was in a great movie called Warm Bodies. He's on a show called The Great on Hulu, which is fantastic.
Okay.
That is a good show.
Well, there you have it. Anyone else?
Oh, he was in Mad Max as well.
There is one person, but I can't remember
Ben
the
Schwartz.
actual name. Ben Schwartz, yes.
He was the mobster's son.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
He's been in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, Mr. Parks and Rec.
Voice of Sonic. The Hedgehog.
Okay. So, those people are in it.
That movie.
And what is Renfield about? Well, Renfield is apparently a servant of Dracula, played by Nicolas Cage, who is basically realizing that, well, his job is to bring bodies to Dracula so that Dracula can eat them, drink their blood, all that type of vampire stuff. And he's realizing he maybe doesn't really want to do that anymore. And so he kind of meets up with this this cop played by Awkwafina, and they have an adventure together, learning about life. Anyway, so the movie is about Renfield's kind of awakening and trying to break away from Dracula, and it's set in New Orleans, and there's a mobster family that's trying to basically continue running the city, and they get involved when some of their members accidentally get killed, the movie's the back and forth and between Renfield and Dracula, and him trying to escape basically from Dracula's power. And I'll mention that Renfield has powers as well as Dracula's servant. That when he eats a bug, he can go wild and have super strength and stuff like that for a little bit till it wears off. So I think that's a fine summary of what we experienced tonight. Todd, what are your feelings? What are your thoughts? What is your gut reaction to Renfield?
I will share my gut reaction. So this movie is pretty entertaining in some areas. So on an entertainment level, it's enjoyable. I like the idea of the story being this is more about a toxic relationship than a straightforward Dracula movie. It's all about Dracula and Renfield's kind of relationship. Although every main character in this movie has a toxic relationship that they get out of at some point. So this movie, while having some supernatural stuff in it and having Dracula, is more about toxic relationships and getting out of it, which I thought was just an interesting spin on a Dracula Tales as Old as Time story. So there's a lot of like little fun stuff in here. The script is pretty like. The script is incredibly fast. It's a very fast-paced movie. It's just like things just keep going, and I think this is just what that director does. So I felt at times there was not a whole lot of time for me to digest what was happening. We were on to the next thing, which it sometimes in a movie could be really good, but I kind of felt like it just threw me off the pace. It just felt like we were going. We would get little snippets of slow down story or backstory. And part of me enjoyed that. Part of me was like, I need a break for a second. Let's dive into something. My biggest problem with this movie is that I'm just not a fan of Awkwafina. Like, your ability to be loud doesn't make you a good actress. And I feel like that's really all she brings to the table. She's got a very loud, annoying voice. And I haven't enjoyed her in pretty much anything I've seen her in. And that was a big drawback to me. Not that I expect the movie makers who made this movie to know my personal issues with Awkwafina.
Oh, they should have checked with you, really.
I mean, if you want your movie to be successful, why wouldn't you? Because we've got this highly rated podcast. Obviously, we're in the touch, and we communicate to the masses on behalf of the movie theaters.
Yes.
And the movie makers.
Right.
So, if you're looking for a movie to just go and have a lot of fun and be entertained, then this movie is pretty much right up your alley. It is very, very, very gory at times. Mm-hmm. It's an entertainment gory. It's not like a
cartoonish.
Yeah, it's not like a scare you kind of gore, but it is a lot. Like, so if you've got a younger teenager and you're like, I don't know, like that might be something to consider. Not saying don't take them, just saying it's a part of the movie. Some choice language too, but what do you expect from an R movie? So, yeah, I'm eager to hear what everyone else felt, but I enjoyed it, but there were some drawbacks to me. And, I think in general, if this is a movie that's up your alley and you just want to have like an hour and some change and shut off your mind, then go see it in theaters if that's the experience you want. I don't know if this is a movie that I would say absolutely you need to hit the theaters to see this movie. So if you're not a movie goer in general, you don't go to the movies, then this is not the one I feel like to break you out of that shell, in my humble opinion. So, and there you have it. Let's go with Marie.
Well, I agree with you. It was fast-paced. And the only other positive thing I have to say is I do always enjoy Nicolas Cage's crazy.
Yeah.
Hamming it up.
He hammed it
He hammed it up. He plays crazy really well. I did note that. Enjoy might be too strong of a word.
Amused.
Bemused
me.
Yeah. My usual metric of if I don't think about anything else about my life while I'm watching a movie means that I was entertained. I have busted that now because I didn't enjoy the movie at all. But I also didn't think about the rest of my life, so it kept my attention.
Gotcha.
But
It just didn't entertain.
It did not entertain me at all. The gore was ridiculous for me. I just don't like that kind of gore. There was too much blood. I felt like the story, the premise was interesting of the toxic relationship, but I felt like the movie couldn't decide if it wanted to be a comedy or a horror flick or have some kind of serious message. That it was like inconsistent and it wasn't funny enough to be a comedy and it wasn't scary enough to be a horror flick, and I just felt like it failed on like 5 different measures for me. So my advice is don't go see it.
Fair enough. Liam?
Yeah. This movie, it was a movie. The thing that, like, visually, it was interesting. The contrast of color was very well done. The set design was really great. So visually, it was very interesting and entertaining. Especially the action sequences were really well choreographed. Yeah. But
True.
I couldn't get past the writing. The dialogue was all very stilted. It didn't feel naturally how people spoke. In storytelling, there's this thing called aromatic writing, where you kind of write in a piece of dialogue that is the big thing that's supposed to be the theme you're portraying within a scene, and then you write around that, and then you take that out, so everything kind of gets the gist of what you want without outright saying it. It felt like every major line in this movie was just saying rather than telling. The characters didn't really have solid motivation. They stated it, but it didn't seem like they were actually portraying what they wanted, and it was too much tell instead of showing with the dialogue. And also, it was very, very fast-paced, but it wasn't fast-paced as kind of like a Mel Brooks movie where it's joke, it's funny, it's moving the plot. This felt more of bouncing around and then coming back to the same thing 3 times before the plot point actually moves forward and develops into something new. So it's fun if you just want cool action sequence and some decent visuals, but it's not good if you're interested in really competent storytelling.
Fair enough. Tim?
Well, I may be on a different island than everybody because I enjoyed this for what it was, but maybe it was my expectations going in too. It was Nicolas Cage hamming it up as Dracula in a crazy over-the-top movie, and I love Nicholas Hoult, so I was biased there too, and he played exactly the type of character he always plays, but he's really good at it. And and I love the way that they shot it. Like you said, the visuals were very interesting. I liked there's a scene early on where basically Nicolas Cage is standing in as Bela Lugosi Dracula, and this movie basically says this is that same Dracula from that movie now, and this is what he's been up to. And I thought that was a nice little touch to kind of connect it to the Dracula lore, if you want to call it that. And this movie was trying to be over the top, crazy, unorthodox, and for me it worked. It didn't want you to think too hard, and I think that going back to what you were saying about the writing, it wasn't trying to be something fancy. It was just, here's this crazy movie, come along for the ride. If you enjoy it, great. And for me, that worked, and that accomplished its goal with me. I actually thought, well, I know Todd's stance toward Awkwafina. I actually thought this was her best performance. Now, that may not be a high bar, but I actually thought she tried in this and wasn't doing her shtick over the top. She actually was trying in this, in my opinion. And as much as you try in a over-the-top, gory, comedy, horror movie. But this one clicked for me. I'm not going to say it was a great movie, like in that kind of way. You could definitely wait for streaming or anything else when it comes to that. But I enjoyed it for what it was trying to do, and I think it accomplished what it was trying to do.
Alrighty. Matt, take us home.
We're going home. All right. Well, I didn't think this movie was very good at all. There were some parts of it that I liked. I do like Awkwafina.
We can't be friends anymore.
I kind of am rooting for her to become a good actress. I don't think she's there yet, but I'm pulling for her. I like her loudness.
Who are you?
A weirdo.
Opinions are opinions.
Yes.
We all have.
I did enjoy that the movie was short. I think we were around 90 minutes or so.
It did not linger.
And I didn't really like the story, but I did like all of the action sequences. Yeah. The ripping arms off of people and using them for weapons and exploding people's heads and making people's bodies tear apart in a splash of blood. that does it for me. That is my
horror
kind
movie.
of
The X-ray thing was cool.
That was
I mean,
yeah,
from a medical person.
very Mortal,
Yes.
that was very Mortal Kombat.
yes. So there's plenty of sort of hammed up gore in
Yes,
this
definitely.
that I just eat that stuff up. It makes me laugh. It makes me smile. It makes me.
I can't date you anymore.
See, exactly.
A lot of things happening in this podcast.
Yes,
We're
yes.
revealing a lot in this.
But yeah, overall, it was fine. It's not a good movie, but I will say there were parts of it that I did enjoy. So it's not going to be like a terrible rating, but it is not. I would not consider it a great piece of cinematic artwork.
To be fair, I don't think it was trying to be.
Correct. Correct. So, anyway, that's where I'll leave it.
Alrighty. Well, getting down to it, I will not elaborate on what I'm choosing for the rating system because if we talk about it, it'll end up being a spoiler. I'm just going to throw it out there. How many concrete ice cubes would you give this movie? 0 being the worst because then you have no concrete ice cubes and then, you know, what are you doing with your life if you have none?
Right.
5 being the best because, you know what? Get one more and you got yourself a half dozen there. So,
That's right.
let's start with Matt.
Well, I am going to be very simple about this. 2 concrete ice cubes out of 5. There were enjoyable parts of this movie, as I said, but I still think it's kind of a below-average film, and there wasn't enough story for me to really say I super enjoyed it. So, 2 concrete ice cubes out of 5.
Oh, Marie?
I'm going to be generous and give it 1.
You go with what you feel. You don't need to be
be
generous.
Just
This is
what
gut
you
reaction.
What you feel.
I appreciated Nicolas Cage's
Yes.
character acting, so
Oh my gosh.
he can have 1 concrete ice cube from
There we
me.
go.
There you go.
Nick Cage himself.
Liam?
It's half a concrete ice cube. If you want to see a more entertaining train wreck, just go to East Palestine in Ohio.
Oh, current events on the scene.
Got him.
Love it.
Tim?
I probably am gonna, like I said, breaking the trend here. I'm gonna nudge it just over that line of a good movie. It is a 2.6 for me. It was enough of an enjoyable thing that I would tell people it's a fun little thing to check out if you're into this type of movie or want to see Nick Cage just doing his thing. So I have 2.6.
Fair. Well, I want to be clear about my rating. My first thought was a 2.6.
Oh, like me.
But Awkwafina brings it down to a 2.3.
There.
So,
Okay. Yep. Oh, now Nick can't even save it. All right.
yeah, I enjoyed Nick Cage's hamming it up, but at times it was like it wasn't matching with what was going, and I was like, you're once again like he just can't help himself.
Nope.
Like every scene he's in has to be about him.
Yep.
And the more he hams it up, the more it is about him. So it's like a never-ending cycle.
Yep.
There were just some scenes with him, and everyone else is doing what they're doing, and he's just doing his own thing, and it didn't play well at times for me.
He was so over the top.
Yeah, which is
I
like
feel like the director was
he-
like, "Yep, go for it."
right. And I mean, like the last movie we saw him in, the unbearable weight of talent or
Yeah.
whatever, like was the perfect amount of
Right.
like hamming it up and stuff like that. So it's the director's
Yep.
responsibility to reel in this crazy guy, and if you don't do it,
Then
you
he's
know,
just gonna,
you might get some gold, but there's also an equal chance you're just going to get people being like, ooh, I don't know about that. That just feels weird.
Yeah.
With craziness like that, like the thing that makes it good with most Nick Cage's is everyone is in on the joke. Everyone else is taking the world as seriously as possible. In this, it felt like the actors were too goofy at times, and no one
get
was
what you're saying.
really into it. So if everyone committed with the full force that is capable of an actor, it would be really, the situations would have been a lot funnier if the characters were taking it as seriously
I think it was.
while also being in this goofy world and this goofy plot.
Fair. And there you have it.
And there you have it. All right. Well, any last thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
I got interested in the idea of a Dracula movie who becomes the head of an organized crime field, which kind of happens throughout this movie. And I'm just like, I was like, you know what? That's an that became what I wanted to see.
Don Dracula.
And
Yeah, it would work though.
so kudos to them for like sparking an interest in idea, and then shame on them for
Not following through.
not running with it or not even
Right.
giving it its real time of day.
All right.
That's from me though. That's a personal statement.
Yeah, personal statement from Todd. Yes. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed the movie Renfield, about Dracula's assistant and his coming-of-age story. We gave it an overall rating of 1.68 concrete ice cubes out of 5. That's a little bit low for us to be in strong recommendation of this, but I do think if you like certain components that are in this movie, you might enjoy the movie.
And there is a part in this movie where our main characters are highly wanted by the police department. And their solution to meet is to say, let's go to Cafe Du Monde, like one of the most popular places you can go in New Orleans.
Right.
I don't think the film location was even Cafe Du Monde. Like,
Oh, it definitely wasn't.
yeah, I've been there.
I've
That
been
was
to Cafe
not
Du Monde.
anywhere in that building.
It's fine.
No. So, there you have
I
it.
kind of think just one last thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
no, please.
made fun of people who are trying to get out of toxic relationships and who try to like work through their codependence, and that was a little annoying.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole movie didn't really take anything seriously.
That's true.
That's true.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you to our multitude of podcasters today for providing insight and influence to our rating systems. And please continue to listen to this podcast, subscribe, download, and tell your friends about it. And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.